I've been wanting to make this video for 2 years. This is why I hate the iPhone XS and the issues that it has. First, the iPhone XS is unreliable. My first ever experience with the iPhone XS Max in July 2019 was shortly followed by a display failure 2 days into owning the phone. I returned that unit and got a brand new one from T-Mobile a second time. I would not have purchased the device in the first place if it weren't for me switching to T-Mobile, and they had a deal where I traded in an iPhone 6 and got a crazy amount of money for it. I had a XS Max from July 2019 to December 2019, and in that time, it almost left me without a phone 2 times, and Apple refused to help. The first time was in September 2019. I was on a vacation, and the phone turned off and refused to turn back on. The phone decided to start working on the car ride home about 2 days later, and the same exact day as that happened, the iPhone 11 series was released. The second time was in November 2019. I was at one of my friend's house, and my phone randomly shut off. And it did not turn on for about 30 minutes, even after putting it on the plug. The phone shut off around 60% battery, and turned on with about 75% from being plugged in. My iPhone XS Max also had multiple other issues, which drove me into buying a Galaxy S10e in December 2019. One of those issues was the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth being very weak. Even compared to my iPhone 6s, that device's Wi-Fi and Bluetooth barely even functioned. Not an issue on my router, as it did the same exact thing at my uncle's house, and he had a different router, different internet provider, and I was very close to both of the routers. My device also had display issues. At random times, the digitizer would go out, and it wouldn't come back on for a while. This did not occur after a drop. This would occur randomly. And only about half the digitizer would go out, not the entire digitizer, for whatever reason. There was no visible damage on the display other than pretty light scratches from normal use. When I brought these issues up to Apple, they claimed they were not able to reproduce the issues, and therefore the device had no issues in their eyes. I was unable to trust my own personal phone that I pretty much paid for, and Apple refused to help me with the issues. I was able to get a replacement unit in January of 2020 after the back glass cracked. I then used it for about a month before I got constant pop-ups telling me to sign into my iCloud multiple times a day every day. This did not fix after a restore, and the issues persisted even after trading the phone to my mom for an iPhone 8 Plus. I then got the iPhone XS Max back after it had other issues, and I traded it in immediately about 2 hours after getting a replacement unit for an iPhone 11 Pro in July 2020, which may have been the best phone-related decision I've ever made. I used an iPhone XS in October 2020. I had it for less than 2 months before trading it in for an iPhone 12 mini to Apple. In the short amount of time I used it, the device's battery health went down to 94% with less than 150 charge cycles. For reference here, my iPhone 13 Pro was at 130 charge cycles with 100% battery health, and my iPhone 10 was at 100 charge cycles with 100% battery health back in 2018. This is common for the iPhone XS, as the one I currently have is at 84% battery health with around 280 charge cycles. And my friend's iPhone XS was at 85% battery health 6 months after buying it new from Apple back in 2019. And the phone was not heavily used in that amount of time either. Look on eBay. The iPhone XSs that you will find commonly have very degraded batteries, green tints on the display, and baseband failure. The green tint on the display was often caused by minor drops. Another drop-related issue was the baseband failing. This happens to a lot of iPhone XSs, but unlike other iPhones, there does not have to be a severe impact to cause this. This can happen from literally any drop. Even the slightest of drops could damage these devices' baseband, basically making them unusable and e-waste, as they are not able to be activated or used as a phone. This issue plagues many iPhone XS devices, and the Max is also plagued from these issues, and the display issues are actually more common on the iPhone XS Max for whatever reason. Now for some actual reasons to not buy an iPhone XS, even if you'd like to take the risks on the reliability issues. For one, it's quite literally the smallest upgrade an iPhone has ever received from Apple. Look at the iPhone X and look at the iPhone XS. Which is which? There are two ways to tell which is which. One is to check settings, and two is to look at the antenna placement. The iPhone XS has the same general design as the iPhone X with very minor changes. The iPhone X was a better phone, however, due to it being more reliable, which is not to say the iPhone X is the most reliable iPhone ever. It does have some display issues, but the iPhone XS has those exact issues as well. The iPhone XS has two notable changes: the A12 chip and the gold color, both of which are minor. Personally, I prefer the black color on both devices, and the A12 has a higher heat output anyways, which annoys me. So, the iPhone X wins in that regard, and the X also wins in the reliability regard. The iPhone XS is quite literally the smallest upgrade ever, but wait, the iPhone XS Max exists. But there's still one catch. It was immediately, the next year, followed up by one of the best iPhones ever, the iPhone 11 Pro Max, which was what the iPhone XS Max should have been. It was much, much better in all ways. Much better cameras, a battery that nobody could drain in a day, a reliable and durable design, and much more. The XS Max is once again defeated by an iPhone which even Apple couldn't follow up with for about 2 years. Let's talk about what many people generally say in defense to the iPhone XS. There are two main arguments. One is that theirs was fine, so every iPhone XS is fine. This is butterfly keyboard supporter type logic. Sure, you may have had a good one. You may have not dropped yours from even a minor height. But that's not to say that many other people haven't had horrible experiences with this phone. And the second argument, mainly used by tech people, is that the iPhone 7 had issues as well. Here's where my point comes into play. The iPhone XS shares a lot of issues with the iPhone 7, one of which is the baseband issue. And the iPhone XS is newer than the 7 by 2 whole years, so the iPhone XS is bound to have many issues relating to age in 2 years as well. You can't defend a phone which is unreliable and was barely even an upgrade when it launched in 2018. Why do I hate the iPhone XS series so much personally? Because many people try to argue with me about how the iPhone XS is good, even after I've done hours of research, had plenty of personal encounters with the iPhone XS series, and have gotten other people's experience with the phone. I hate when people try to convince me something is good, even though I throw facts at them about the phone and show them proof. It's stupid logic, and the people who do this honestly have no idea about the phone, and probably have never used one for an extended period of time, especially used one enough to see the issues. When I have very little problems with the previous iPhone X from 2017. I've done my research, and I've argued with many people over this phone, and I still have yet to see the phone in a better light, even after using one in 2022. Yes, I used an iPhone XS in 2022. A random one. Not one from eBay. Just a random iPhone XS that I got from a place locally. It has issues, and the reason why the owners were getting rid of it was because the display didn't work. So after replacing the screen, it has issues still. First, Face ID doesn't work. This could possibly be from a repair. And the battery is very degraded and doesn't last long, as I've had someone say, even though theirs has very low battery health, the battery still lasts long. But nope, even with my light usage and 290 charge cycles on the battery, it does not last long at all. It lasts about 3.5 hours on a single charge, and it's the first phone that I can say that I've had battery issues on, even after using the iPhone 12 mini for over a whole month and having no issues with it. The other issue it has is the volume buttons are very stiff for whatever reason. The telephoto camera has a line straight through it, and that's even without any visible damage to the camera. That's just the proof that I needed. to know that I'm not wrong at all about every iPhone XS having issues, because I would not try to give this phone issues. I wanted to be proven wrong. I wanted to not be the person that whines about the iPhone XS online. But no, every iPhone XS has issues, and I don't understand why these things were made with such low standards, because this could have been the best iPhone. I loved the iPhone X, my favorite iPhone ever, and I loved the 11 Pro. It was probably my second or third favorite iPhone ever. But the iPhone XS was the first iPhone that made me think, why am I using Apple products? It was the first iPhone that really made me consider if I was actually enjoying using my iPhone. This phone I got randomly is a prime example of all of these phones being horrible. I've had many experiences that you've heard. Have I had similar experiences with other iPhones? Partially. I've had light issues with other iPhones, such as the 7 home button dying or the 13 Pro's display being particularly weak, but the XS Max fell 12 inches off of a tripod, and that was enough to shatter the back glass. 12 inches from a tripod on my personal unit. This is not something that should happen, especially with the strongest glass ever claims that Apple made. Plus, it was flat concrete. There was absolutely no rocks or anything. It was my garage floor. I've dropped my 12 mini and 12 Pro Max down flights of hardwood stairs into walls multiple times, and no damage was done. I dropped my iPhone 13 Pro from 13 feet onto concrete on its corner, and it was fine. I absolutely put my 11 through torture while using that thing, but the XS Max was the one phone that gave me durability issues more than any. All of these issues combined into one phone make the iPhone XS the worst iPhone I've ever used. I've been collecting evidence for my point since 2019, and I've collected enough to know that the iPhone XS deserves any and all of the hate that it gets. One last personal experience with the XS Max. My sister had one from December 2019 to July 2021. The phone recovery looped sometimes at random and had to be restored multiple times, and the baseband ended up dying. This was another encounter I've had with the XS Max specifically, and I ended up giving my sister my 12 Pro and trading the XS Max into Apple and upgrading myself to a 12 Pro Max. Since then, that 12 Pro is still perfectly fine and working. Also, I would like to note that my sister used the 6S Plus from 2016 to 2019 with no issues other than the battery and a charge port. So this is not a user-specific issue or any issues of durability. This is all coming from my experiences that I've seen personally. I've had two XS's and a XS Max that have broken, and my sister had a XS Max that broke, all from one person's experience. My experience. And yes, I'm a tech guy, so I know more about iPhones than the average person, but this is just annoying. Every person I know with a XS has had issues with it in some form or another. I've never seen one person without issues on a XS. That phone is horrible, and that's why I can't recommend anybody even remotely consider a XS. Now I have experiences from two people. First is my friend Elias or Meowtech. He's had multiple iPhone XS's. The first one was a XS Max 64GB gold. He bought it used on November 11th, 2020. The device already had a broken Face ID from the previous owner simply from a normal drop that apparently caused it to stop working. Seems pretty accurate. The battery was at 91% health, but it was apparently incorrect. The device would be at 50% after recording on it for 30 minutes, from, I assume, 100% at start. The touchscreen also acted weird. It would randomly ghost touch and would be fixed by turning the phone on and off. Sounds really a lot like mine. His second iPhone XS, I actually remember when he got. It's a 64GB gold unit. He bought it in December 2021 with no issues used. The battery health dropped from 86 to 79% within 3 months of use. It had 551 cycles when he got it, and it reached 602 cycles when the battery health dropped to 79, although it seemed inaccurate as the battery still lasted about the same as a XS in the mid to high 80s. The back glass apparently cracked from being thrown at the wall from a short distance, and I remember when that happened too. He apparently has never had a phone crack from that distance or that throw before, and it wasn't even that hard of a throw. And after 3.5 months, the baseband is dead, and it's stuck on searching. There was no severe impact to cause that. It was random. And his opinion on the XS overall is that he thinks it's an average phone, but he would highly suggest against buying the device used or new. And he says if you're looking for a XS, buy a 10. If you want the XS Max, get the 11 Pro Max. If you already own one, you may want to sell it or trade it in before it develops issues such as his, and many others. And he says if you have had it for a while and it's still working, you may as well keep it, but don't expect it to last, as I've had that happen with my XS, where it was working, then it just died randomly. Next experience is from Ginger Prince's. He's had 3 iPhone XS's that were bought brand new from the Apple Store. All 3 of them suffered from the well-known baseband issue. None of the 3 that he had were able to be used for more than 4 months each, due to the fact that they all failed because of the baseband issue itself. 2 of the iPhone XS's that he had also suffered from sudden random OLED damage internally. He never dropped it or put excessive weight on either of them. Both had a green line of dead pixels on the right side of the OLED panel. Sound familiar from these eBay listings that we've saw? The iPhone XS, in his opinion, was a decent phone if you forget about the common issues for a moment. But in all reality, it was just a minor upgrade from the iPhone X. And he says, just to clarify, I did not buy the iPhone XS 3 times. He had one phone replaced under Apple Care Plus 2 times. Sounds pretty similar to some other issues, especially the baseband issue, as my friend Meowtech also had that same issue with the baseband. With all this considered, what is the market for this phone like? If the device is in great condition, the iPhone XS sells for around $288 US average. The iPhone X sells for about $244 US dollars on average. For the extra money, you don't get anything actually good. I can also suggest the iPhone XR, which is around $180 average, although I didn't completely research that. It has the same internals as the XS if you really want that extra power, or those iOS features that Apple decided to lock the 10 and below out of, with way less issues, and a lower price point, more colors, and a bigger but lower resolution LCD display. If you want a better camera, the regular iPhone 11's camera is better than the XS's, in my opinion, in a much cheaper form. And honestly, let me just say this, buy a 13 Pro, or whatever is the latest at the time you're watching this. It's much better than any of these used devices. Trust me on that one. Even if you're anti-Apple, just save for a 13 mini or an SE3 because they're better than these old phones that I've been talking about. Technology advances faster than anything nowadays, and I really don't think you'd want to be stuck with some old phone from 2017 or 2018 for your 2022 tasks. Guys, this video took me weeks to make. I started this project in mid-March, and it's almost mid-April now. And I'm finishing up and uploading this, hopefully in the next couple of days. If you enjoyed this video, I appreciate a like, and if you want to see more content similar to this, you can check out my other content and subscribe if you'd like. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in more videos in the future.